Thank you, everyone.
Hey.
This brings us now to the last inning for tonight's events. An evening with Goose. Richard Goose Gossage, native of Colorado Springs. An MLB career covering 22 seasons from 1972 to 1994. Voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 2008. Best known for his years with the New York Yankees from 78 to 83. The San Diego Padres from 84 to 87. Playing in 2 World Series, earning a World Series ring in 1978 with the Yankees. He was selected for an All-Star game 9 times, led the American League in saves 3 times, and voted Relief Man of the Year once in 1978.
And believe it or not, well, believe it, because it's true, Goose, still today, ranks number 3 all-time in strikeouts among MLB relievers, only behind Dennis Eckersley and Hoyt Wilhelm, excuse me. And if you're a baseball fan, you know damn well they're Hall of Famers as well, so good company, right? Raised in Colorado Springs, Gossage has a strong love for Western lifestyle, which is why he's here tonight, especially though, the sport of rodeo. He's honored to speak here tonight to help out with the ProRodeo Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Mr. Goose Gossage.
Used to be able to hop up here. Okay, I'll get this right. I used to know where the mound was, but that's about it. I don't even know where to begin. I guess back when I grew up here in Colorado Springs, my family are natives of Colorado Springs, back somewhere in the late 1890s, 1800s, 1895 or somewhere in 1988. We're in 1998, Paula, my sister. And, we grew up here. This was my Pikeview Mine, which is like almost adjacent here to the Hall of Fame. Not many people, it's certainly gone and been gone a long time. The Pikeview Mine is a small community where my dad was a coal miner here, and grew up in Pikeview, lived in Pikeview, the little community right here. You can't believe it was even here. And this is kind of my backyard and my front yard. I grew up where Fillmore Street was the end of Colorado Springs. Back in the day, and that's about as far north as the city went. I grew up in a little town, in a little community there, Roswell community. And not Roswell, New Mexico, but Roswell community. And just off of Beacon Street and Wood Street where they come out, and just below Cascade Avenue. So this is I've got a really pretty cool story about how I got into professional baseball. Anyway, my dad and I, my sisters and my whole family grew up here. We're Yankee fans. All I ever heard about was the Yankees. There was 17 years difference between me and our oldest sibling, Jack, my brother, our brother, and then there was 16, 15, 14 years difference between us and our older siblings. I was a mistake. So here we are, and I have a younger sister. My mom said, well, he can't be all alone by himself. So hence my sister. So anyway, we grew up in Roswell, but this creek, Monument Creek right down here, Sid and Jerry, my God. These were my stomping grounds my whole life growing up here. And I remember, just growing up playing my youth baseball. My brother was a huge fan of the rodeo. I have illustrations in a scrapbook that my mom and my brother was a hell of an artist. And he drew like Casey Tibbs, and that's all I ever heard was Casey Tibbs. And I walk in here yesterday, and there's a big old display of, man, who, you know, that's like Babe Ruth, you know, and Casey Tibbs. That's exactly how I looked at it, and my brother brought back so many memories. You know, he had illustrations of guys getting bucked off of Bronx, and there's a big pile of cactus, you know, and where he was going to go. So, you know, things like that I grew up around. My brother, my dad, they were huge fans of the rodeo, and of course, Casey Tibbs was, you know, one of the greatest of all time. So, my dad always told me, he said, you're going to play in the big leagues, and I would say, oh, Dad, don't say that. And he was a huge Yankees fan. All I ever heard about was, you know, Mickey Mantle was my favorite player growing up, and I thought, you know, I'd never been out of the state of Colorado. I'm growing up here in Colorado Springs. Never been on an airplane, never been out of the state of Colorado. And now I'm thinking about maybe the possibility of playing professional baseball. And I thought these guys like Mickey Mantle, the greats that I looked up to, Henry Aaron, all those greats that I looked up to, you know, like Casey Tibbs and you Cowboys out here, you know, they put their pants on differently than we do. And that's exactly how I thought about Mickey Mantle and all the greats that I looked up to that I you know, thought put their pants on differently than I did. And I thought I may get an opportunity. This now I'm in high school, and I'm thinking that, you know, I don't know whether I'll get drafted or not. I don't know. I had plenty of scholarships all over the country. I wanted to further my education. Nobody in my family had ever could afford to further our education or an education. And so I was really looking forward to furthering my education by way of playing baseball. I didn't know if I'd get drafted, so upon graduating, my father, incidentally, had passed away the year before I graduated when I was a junior in high school. And again, he always would say, you're going to play in the big leagues someday. And he would say it not braggerish, but just kind of, you know, kind of proud and I'd say, oh, Dad, don't say that, please. You know, that's unattainable to me. You know, I didn't say that, but that's what it kind of meant to me. And so my father had passed away when I was a junior, when we were juniors, and I came running in the house. I graduated out of Boston High School here, and graduated and ran through the front door. I'd gotten a job. 2 days before I just graduated, I got a job working at Bonnie Park, Bonnieville, a little community up there, Bonnie Park. That's where I grew up playing all my youth baseball. And I came running in the house and I said, Mom, I got a job coaching the kids at the park. You know, I was so happy. And she goes, well, Rick, that's great, but this gentleman has a job for you too. And I had run just right by this guy that was sitting on the couch, and I come to find out, I turned around and introduced himself as a scout from the Chicago White Sox, and they informed me right then and there that, you know, that they had drafted me, and that was my opportunity then and there to play professional baseball. And I was scared to death. It was the first time I negotiated a contract. They offered me $5,000 and I held out for $8,000. So, it wasn't about the money. $8,000. We couldn't rub two nickels together, but we had a great childhood. I had a great childhood. We had a great childhood. Growing up, got a lot of love from our moms and dad and sisters and older sisters and brothers, and so it was growing up in the outdoors. My dad was born 100 years too late. He should have been a mountain man. And my cousin Rod, he knows, he grew up in the family. Rod and Jamie are here tonight. And so I came running, and I turned around, and he said, hey, Bill Kimball from the Chicago White Sox, and he was lived in North Platte, Nebraska. He says, he was an older man, and he said, I've been watching you for a long time. He goes, you're going to play in the big leagues. Just like my dad had told me. And so I thought, oh my God, here goes, what do I do? Do I go to school? Because I know I'm not going to go to school, because that's the only thing that kept me in school was keeping my grades up, you know, to be able to play sports. And I was a terrible student. Oh my God, my senior year, I majored in wood shop. So, good thing that's how I made it in baseball, because I didn't have any alternative. But, so I signed the contract, and it felt like as soon as I signed that contract that the weight of the world was on my shoulders. And what have I done? I can't get Mickey Mantle out. I can't get these grades out that I looked up to all my life. I said, what am I never met one in the flesh. I thought they were fictitious, like cartoon characters that really didn't even exist. And kind of like you guys in Casey Tibbs and guys like that. And I just sat there and I said, I don't know, it just felt so unattainable. And I borrowed my brother's Jeep, and I think my mom had it, and she had borrowed it. We didn't even really have a car. And I borrowed it and went up here, just right up by the Flying W Ranch. One of my dad's and my favorite places where we used to go hike and hunt, and just hike and be in the outdoors. It was one of the most beautiful places. And I drove up there and I parked. And I sat there, it was about 1 o'clock, I got there, and I cried all afternoon. Now I'm thinking, what have I done? I've signed my life away. I'm starting out on a journey that I've never been on an airplane. I've never been out of the damn state of Colorado. I've never done anything. And I'm scared to death. And now I'm going to go try and do something that I think is so unattainable that these guys don't put their pants on the same way as I do, And so it's getting dark, and I finally sat there and I said, hey, I got to get going to myself. I'm just having a hell of a time with myself. And I said, I got to go. And I said at the end of the day, and I'm still crying, I'm sitting under a pine tree up there, and I said, I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but there aren't going to be any shoulda, woulda, couldas, if, ands, or buts. The only thing that's going to keep me out of the big leagues or playing and achieving what I want to achieve is that I'm just not good enough. That's it. And you know what? When I made that commitment to myself, it felt like the weight of the world was lifted off of my shoulders. Making that commitment, that the only thing, it isn't going to be because I didn't give it no shoulda, woulda, couldas, if, ands, or buts. I'm in it now, both feet. I've signed this contract. I'm on my way to try and get Mickey Mantle out, and guys like him. But there aren't going to be any shoulda, woulda, couldas, if, ands, or buts. The only thing that's going to keep me from doing it is I'm not good enough. With that commitment was all I needed. The tears stopped. The weight of the world felt like it was lifted off of my shoulders. And I said, bring it on. And if I fail, it's only going to be because I'm just not good enough. I'm going to give it everything I got. Not look back. All I wanted to do when I started out, when I left Colorado Springs, was put a big league uniform on one time, and one time turned into 22 years. Wow. I still have to pinch myself that I had the kind of career that I had. I said even the home runs I gave up were great. And that's how I looked at my career. I look back at my career and I think of a young kid going to Disney World he or she going to Disney World for the first time and waiting in a 2-hour line to get on their favorite ride, and it lasts for a couple of minutes. I'm a kid that got on his ride and it lasted for 22 years. And the game still keeps giving to me. meeting folks like you. Thank you so much for coming out. I think we've done a heck of a job raising a lot of money for a great cause, and to be part of that, to have all of you, Gary and your wife, Gary Gossage, I can't believe there's people here that know me that are paying to be here. And they know me, so I guess we can get on with it. But that's how I started out my career. We had a great saying, and we'll get into some of this up here, I imagine. Baseball is made up of players who have been humbled and those that soon will be. It's like life itself, isn't it, kinda? How hard life is. Baseball parallels that. What else can you fail at 7 out of 10 times and be a star? The only other person I've heard of is like a weatherman or something. So we'll get on with the program, and thank you so much for being here, and all my friends and family, the Zebkas, oh my God, Kathy, Steve, thank you for coming. Everybody, thank you so much. We'll get on with the program.
Now's the fun part. You guys hear me okay?
No.
How about me? Well, now's the fun part. I guess I'll take it from here. So we're going to start our question and answer period. I think David right now is collecting some of the questions that will get brought up. Oh, perfect. Certainly, yeah, we can go back and forth.
Here's an alternate.
Goose, I have a question. This is on a little bit more. There you go. Okay. Goose, my first question for you. How often do you get compared to the same category as American Bald Eagle and John Wayne? I want a t-shirt with all that on it and the American flag behind it.
Yeah.
That's, is this on? Is that on? No. There we go. Thank you. No, not very often. I mean, Earl Aldrich, I just can't say enough, and he was a legend here in Colorado Springs, being a police officer, starting from the bottom up, patrol cars and black and whites and all that, and then becoming one of the best detectives going into the DA's office. So he served this city beyond what someone should serve. So here's to Earl. I know he's looking down, and we love you. Thank you.
I guess I'll use yours. I will get to the audience questions, the one from me first that might be here as well. Up till 1972, you were Rich Gossage. Then, I believe if I have it correctly, it was Tom Bradley who gave you your nickname. Could you tell us all that story for those who don't know it?
So I'm right out of A-ball. I learned to change up. Johnny's saying, when I got to the big leagues, the stars were aligned. I ran into the coaching that I couldn't believe that was even, the knowledge that these guys had was unbelievable. Johnny saying, spawn and sane and pray for rain. I could throw the ball through a car wash, but I had no idea without getting wet, but I had no idea what a breaking ball or an off-speed pitch was. And to run into Johnny Sane at that juncture in my career, he taught me a straight changeup, and actually, he showed to Chuck Tanner the mechanics of it. Chuck Tanner, the manager of the White Sox, I'm an A-ball, and they fly down and show me this straight change. I'm 1-1. It's early in the season. Season just started. I'm in A-ball. I mean, it's, that's low classification of professional baseball. And They flew down, they said this kid needs a changeup. I learned that changeup, I was the MVP of that league that year, and then I got an invite to big league camp as a non-roster player out of A-ball, and I ended up making the big leagues out of A-ball. I had a hell of a spring with this changeup. Now I'm under the tutelage of Johnny Sane, teaching me a breaking ball. And I had to take some steps back, just like we do in life and things that we do in occupations. What's our greatest teacher? Experience. And once I got that experience and learned that breaking ball, that's when my career really started to go up. But it was this straight changeup that got me to the big leagues. I was 18-2, the MVP of the league, and running into Johnny Sane, Chuck Tanner, and another guy, Dick Allen, who we're trying to get into the Hall of Fame now. But those three guys, and what I learned under them, Tom Bradley was the guy that named me Goose. When I made the club, I came out of Chuck Tanner's office, and he just informed me 2 days before we broke camp that I made the team out of A-ball, which is unheard of. And I just was sitting in front of my locker. Well, Tom Bradley was a graduate from Harvard, a Rhodes Scholar, really a brilliant guy. He was a single guy in Chicago, and he comes over, he pulls up the chair, he goes, "Congratulations on making the team," but he said, "Where are you going to live?" I said, "I have no idea." He goes, "I have a 2-bedroom apartment." I go, "Great." He named me Goose. I said, "How the hell did you come up with Goose?" He goes, "How you take your side." He goes, "You need a nickname." So after about a week of living with him, and he goes, I go, "How'd you get Goose?" He goes, "You stick your neck out, it gets real long, because you look like a goose." Who'd have thought that would have stuck, you know? And then, you know, I played a long time, and then the press got a hold of it. All of my other teammates started calling me Goose, and then the media got a hold of it, and you know when they get a hold of something.
Actually, I'm going to grab one from Tyler. Another question from the audience, if you will, Tyler. Give me some of those cards over there. Sharing is caring, that's what my wife says. Okay, cool. All right, Goose. This is from the audience. Oops. And you know what? I actually got this as a question, personally as well. I'm really glad someone's asking this. 22 seasons in Major League Baseball. I cannot imagine the amount of Hall of Fame type quality hitting you faced. Who's the toughest hitter you faced? Who would go up to bat and you're just like, oh, here we go, it's on?
Well, you know, I got to face a lot of greats, kind of at the end of their careers. And with my fastball, I caught them what I call limping at the end of their careers, you know, where they couldn't catch up with my good fastball. So that was Al Kaline, guys like Henry Aaron, guys like, Frank Robinson. Wow, what a hitter he was. But, you know, you throw the ball in the right location, and these guys are just, Tony Oliva, we just got him into the Hall of Fame. My God, one of the greatest hitters. But the greatest hitter in my prime and his prime was George Brett. And I tell him all the time, I single-handedly got you into the Hall of Fame because he hit a couple of shots heard around the world off of me, which was the Pine Tar home run. That was me. And then he hit one off of me in the 80 playoffs, which was the last nail in our coffin. They went on to be world champions that year. And I don't think it's come down yet. It ended up in the upper deck at Yankee Stadium, but he was the greatest hitter in my prime and his, and I tell him I single-handedly got you elected to the Hall of Fame.
Well, I'm glad you brought up George Brett because I have a card here that just says George Brett chin music on it. So let me ask you this, Goose. I found a quote from you from 1979. You said, "It's hard to explain what the feeling is like when you first put on that Yankee uniform, those New York pinstripes. It's all there. There's not another place. There is not another place like Yankee Stadium. It's hard to explain." That was 1979. Now it's 2023. Is it any easier for you to explain now?
You know, I got to play for 9 different teams. I wore my welcome out, I say, a lot of places. So I think they can hear me. And I got to play for 9 different teams. I loved the White Sox. I did all my first good and bad in Chicago. I have so many great memories there. And then the 8 other teams that I played for. My dad, my mom, my whole family, my brother was a hell of a player. And they were all Yankee fans. That's all I ever heard about were the Yankees, you know, all the greats. And one of the greatest things about playing with the Yankees was Old Timers Day, meeting all these guys and sharing a locker with, you know, Moose Skowron and Hank Bauer and, Tommy Heinrich and, oh my God, not to mention, DiMaggio and Mantle and Maris and all of those, Bobby Richardson, and what gentlemen these guys were. And to be part of that for the 6 years that I played with the Yankees, and to meet these guys and become friends with Yogi, oh my God. You know, if you're sitting at Yogi's table, just like you're sitting there at Yogi's at your table, he's going to pull a Yogiism. And that's a fact. And just meeting those guys, and one of the coolest pictures that I have was my first one in '78, my first Old Timers Day, and seeing all these guys sharing a locker with us, it was like an out-of-body experience. And so I had to talk to Billy Martin, who was my manager, and I had to go over something with the game, something to do with the game, and his door was closed, and I knocked on his door, and I hear, "Come in," and I walk in, and they're taking a picture. Talk about timing. And it's Mantle, DiMaggio, Maris, Yogi, there's like 10 guys in there. And I walked in on that picture and I said, oh God, I'll be back. And they say, get your ass in this picture. And so I did what my manager told me to do, and it's one of the coolest pictures that I have. But those are the kinds of things, the 8 other teams that I played for, we got to go to Japan. My wife and I have just celebrated our 50th anniversary. And, oh my God, man, you're going to heaven, honey. Oh yeah, you got a one-way ticket. But this is some of my family, Todd, Terry Smiley. We were at the national finals. I don't know what that year was, but it was quite a few years ago. And we go right up on the chutes, right? We're right there on the gates and front row seats. And we're a guest of the ProRodeo Hall of Fame, and we got front row seats, and they're gonna pan us, and there we are, but it's only him, and it's Goose Gossage. I can't believe I invited him here, and he stole all my thunder, but he's still a friend. So that was hilarious. But what's some more questions?
We have a question from...
It's like playing whack-a-mole. Here you go.
We'll try this one. We have a question from a young man named Jack, who's back in the crowd. He would like to know more about your time in Fukuoka, Japan with the Hawks.
Well, I was going to mention that getting to go to Japan, that's not even counted in the 8 other, we have towheads, I have to tell you this story. So Todd is about 5 years old, I guess, 6. And so we get there, I've been there a week, but I haven't really been out in the city. Fukuoka, which is way south in the Kyushu Island, it's not like Tokyo where you see a lot of Americans and it's very, very Americanized. And this was truly Japanese. And so we go out, they check, we get them up into my apartment, not far from the ballpark, right downtown Fukuoka. And we go out, and it's all black hair. If you see an American, you stop and talk to them, and usually they're teaching English down there. So we're walking around, and Todd's tugging at me going, Dad, like this. I go, what, like this. And it's an ocean of Japanese people, and it's all there are, Japanese, and black hair, and kids, black hair, that's it. And here these guys are, all towheads. The Martians couldn't have crash landed and gotten a bigger audience than, there's 5,000 people following us, or whatever there are. And I turned around, and I couldn't, it was like the Pied Piper, and here these guys are, and they were coming up and touching my boys, and the other ones were too much older. Keith is here with us. And so it was a great experience, learning the culture, being over there. I told my wife early on in our careers, if we get a chance, hey, some of the older guys were going to Japan. I said, man, that'd be kind of cool. So I got to do that, came back and played 4 more years here in the States.
Thank you, Goose. I found it remarkable hearing you talk about your father. When you think about what he said to you in high school, you're going to be a big leaguer, huge Yankees fan, and just a short time later, you're in Yankee Stadium in a Yankee uniform. Just a few years later, how often do you think about how proud he must be looking down on you, and what do you think he'd say to you today?
Gosh, I don't think like that really. I'll tell you the first time when I made the team back in the Sox, and I'm still on this, everything's a first. We're going to Chicago. By the way, I get word 2 days before, now we're flying to Chicago. We land on the tarmac in Chicago, and we have a team meeting, which I didn't know that was unusual, but I knew it was unusual because I heard some of the guys, what's this all about? I heard a couple of guys say it. So we deplane, we're on the tarmac, and our player rep says, hey guys, as of right now, we are on strike. That was the first strike in 1972. My career, I don't think anybody else can say this, my career spanned all 8 work stoppages. My career started out on that first strike, and I'm saying, what the hell? What do you mean we're on strike? I'm in Chicago. I can't rub 2 nickels together. I spend the night on the street. I don't have a credit card. But it was very interesting. Got hustled a couple times, and it was very interesting. But that was welcome to the big leagues, kid. And then my career ended on the last strike in 1994 when we lost the World Series. So my career spanned all 8 work stoppages. But what was the question? Yes, and my father. Yeah, so getting back to all these firsts, now we're on a plane, I'm flying somewhere and I'm looking at the schedule and I said, oh my God. I called my mom on a payphone as soon as I could land, wherever we were, and I said, Mom, we go to Yankee Stadium like in May. And that was the highlight of, oh my God, I'm going to go to Yankee Stadium. All of this stuff that I've heard about it, all the, everything. I mean, and I'm thinking, so now we're leaving Chicago, come May, we're leaving Chicago, we're going to New York. We're flying in, we got a game that night. We land in New York, bus goes to the Yankee Stadium. I'm the only rookie on the team, and we pull up in front of Yankee Stadium, and I'm like, oh my God. And the whole ride, the whole plane ride, the whole bus ride from the airport. And then we get there, and everybody had been there, done that. It was a veteran team. And everybody had been there, done that. They filed down in the bowels of Yankee Stadium, and there was a guard right at the door. everybody goes into the clubhouse, and I said to the guard, I said, where's the dugout? I got to see this place. And he goes, follow that rubber mat. There was a rubber mat where our spikes that we walked and went right down, and then it turned down into a tunnel, and there was daylight down there, and it wasn't dark yet. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was daylight down there. I could tell that was the dugout. And I walked down there, and boom, I popped out into Yankee Stadium. And that night, I got in that game, and during batting practice, balls are flat. It's so big. I just remember how grand it was, how gigantic it was, and majestic, and all the seating, and it was just overwhelming. And that night, I get in the game. I am shaking. I don't know that I can even make it to the mound. I am shaking, trembling. My legs are shaking. I think I'm going to pass out. I think, no, I didn't throw up, but, I was just like beside myself. And I ran by the umpire. I remember running in, and I ran by the umpire. He said something to me. By the time I'm by him, I realized he said something to me. I tried to say, I blew him off, and go to the mound, and I sat there and I looked around, and it was one of the coolest moments that I've ever had, and I've had many, but it's one of the coolest. And I sat there and I looked around, just taking it all in and hyperventilating and shaking, and I said, Dad, I said, this is for you. And it was a pretty cool moment. But I had so many cool moments. The coaching that I got was amazing. Playing against all the great players that I got to play against, play with. The World Championship that we won. The 3 World Series that I played in. Meeting all these guys, being a part of and all the friends that I've made, all these 9 teams, people, I can go just about anywhere in the country and call somebody, and Les Lancaster shows up. I just told Les Lancaster's story. He's the manager of the team here, and an ex-teammate. So, the thing that, when I got out of baseball, nothing was going to replace me facing that hitter. It's like riding a bronc or riding a bull or running barrels, Marcy. Ralph Tam won 2 Super Bowls. A good friend of mine is here tonight. Won 2 Super Bowls with Joe Montana. So a very good friend of mine. Marcy's just starting out her career barrel racing. And so, the thing that I was going to say, Chuck Tanner told me the first day I ever met him, he says, you make him tear that uniform off. And I took him at his word, and I did. And the 22 years, and nothing was ever going to replace me facing that hitter. That was what it was all about, 50,000, 50,000 people and the World Series and play, that's why we put we go to the national finals, and that's why we do what we do to get to the finals. That's what it's all about. And that's what it's all about when playing baseball, is getting to a World Series. And I got there 3 times, Ralph, getting there. But I was going to say, the second thing that I missed most was the camaraderie of the guys. And, being with those guys for 8 months, no one realizes how baseball, what a grind it is. For 162 games, and then 30 more in spring training. And then you go to the postseason, wow, you're licking your wounds after the season is over. And, gosh, I couldn't wait to get back at it. And, next question.
Goose, you gave us a good Billy Martin story a little bit ago. In your time with the Yankees, you crossed paths with some of the biggest personalities in the game of baseball, between George Steinbrenner, Billy Martin, Reggie Jackson, Yogi Berra. I could go on and on. Do you have any stories that stick out to you, ones that you could tell tonight that are really are big moments for you in your career, funny moments in your career?
Well, there's just so many. You know, Yogi, my God, what a character. Meeting him, I mean, a true, like Yogi the Bear, you know, like that kind of, you know, I mean, he was a legend. And all of the other greats, Mantle, DiMaggio, and all the other greats, Henry Aaron, and now to be a part of the Baseball Hall of Fame. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I just can't even comprehend it. To have a plaque out at Monument Park in Yankee Stadium. Things that I can't even comprehend, or I never will. I will never comprehend being in the Hall of Fame. You know, to start out here in Roswell, and this is my old, we killed deer right here in this place. Poached them. I hope the statute of limitations is out. But yeah, and we used to come up here and ride around Pikeview Mine and Woodman Road, and we'd get dinner and kill rabbits, and you know, that's how we really made it, you know, hand to mouth kind of growing up. But you know, my mom said I've eaten so many deer. She says I'm going to start sprouting antlers.
So, you know, most kids, when they get drafted or they start out in the minors and they're a pitcher, very few, I can only imagine, dream of becoming a reliever. You want to be a starter, right? You want to be 9 innings, you want to be Nolan Ryan. Was it hard going from starter to reliever? Did you embrace it right away? Tell me your story. Tell me that journey for you, because I feel like that could be a really important metaphor for a lot of young athletes.
Well, I really feel blessed that I saw basically this total evolution of the bullpen, where you didn't want to be in the bullpen. It was a junk pile where old starters went that couldn't start anymore. So you really didn't want to be. I had my sights. I was a starter in the minor leagues when I was the MVP, like I said, of the Midwest League. And I had my sights set on starting. You did not want to be in the bullpen. And right then, I became a part of the team of Johnny Sane and Chuck Tanner. Terry Forrester was a hard thrower, right? Lefty, righty. We were kind of out of the same mold. And he's a big old dude, and I mean, he has the greatest stuff I've ever seen a pitcher have. And we both broke into the White Sox organization the same year. He was the #2 draft pick of the White Sox, and he had electric stuff. And we became fast friends, played 5 years together with the White Sox. He went to the Dodgers, continued a great career. I went to the Yankees. We became, you know, the great rivalry, the Yankees and Dodgers. But we were
Your journey from starting to
yeah.
Did you
So at that time when I broke into the big leagues, Johnny Saint said, "You're going to be coming out of the bullpen." Well, hell, I'd have cleaned the toilets. We'd have done anything. We're in the big leagues. We don't care. But we became to love the bullpen every night, coming to the ballpark with the opportunity to pitch. And to pitch, when those starters got in trouble, that was Forster's in my game. We were kind of thrown to the wolves as rookies. And man, you know, after you crap the bed in front of 50,000 people, and you're a young kid and you don't quite know how to handle this, and now you come into the nights, you know, you crap the game and lose it, and crap the bed in front, I call it crapping the bed in front of 50,000 people. It's no fun. And you're out there all by yourself. First of all, you've let your team down. You've lost the game. Now the fans, you know, you've let them down. You could drive home that night, you sit in the clubhouse and grind on it until you go to your car. Drive home, you grind on it. You got a sick pit in your stomach now before you go to bed. You close your eyes, you got that sick pit in your stomach. After giving it up, you can't believe you lost the game. You wake up, go to bed, you go, oh, I'm gonna sleep on this, everything will be fine in the morning, right? You wake up, the eyes open, that sick pit hasn't gone anywhere. Now I come into tonight's ball game with the same opportunity of, you know, crap the bed in front of these people. I got 2 of these going now, right? Don't do what you did last night. That's who's stalking crap on your shoulder, right? This has got to be gone. Now I'm thinking, this guy's talking crap to me. I'm trying to get rid of him in my ear. Don't shit the bed like you did last night, you know? Right? Well, guess what? Now I got 2 crappy beds. Because I can't get last night's out. I said, I got to figure out how I'm going to do this. How I'm going to put this game in perspective about what it is. If I'm thinking about that disaster last night, guess what? I'm going to have another disaster tonight. It's that simple. That's what life is. That's why baseball, we love baseball. That's what rodeo's real. You don't get another take. You know, it's real stuff. What else can you fail at? 7 out of 10 times I made that point. You know, nothing. It's a difficult game. It's like life. I think that's why we all loved it. And somewhere it leads us along the way. It's a game of failure. How we deal with those. How I dealt with those failures. Those disasters. I said, you almost got to go out, try this in front of 50,000 people. You know, try to go out and not care about. That's kind of how you got to do it. You know how I did it? When the pressure got to me so much sometimes, it was cumulative, and I would have trouble putting one foot in front of the other. And I would be shaking, and this is earlier on in my career, and it would just happen to me on certain times, coming in night after night, being the hero or the GOAT. And I said, why am I shaking? I've never shaken like this. I hate this feeling. It feels like like you're going to go off the cliff and kill yourself. You know, it's like the rush is the adrenaline is so great, and it's almost like it will destroy you. Like and that's how I learned to use it. I stopped fighting it and used it as my friend instead of my foe. And I used to hate that feeling. And I said, this adrenaline stuff is not going to go away. I got to start using this as my friend, not my foe. It can make us stronger if we know how to channel it and use it. Once I accepted it as my friend and not my foe, man, it started to work for me. But this perspective that when I was shaking and I thought, I've never shaken like this, I've always played baseball I'm having this conversation on the mound. I'm thinking, I've never felt like this. I've never felt like I'm going to explode. I've never shaken. I've never felt like this. I said, why did I start playing this game at 8 years old for the love and the fun of it? You know what? I always went back to being 8. Does that make sense? That perspective about what I said, I'm not in Vietnam getting shot at. I got a bad ankle right now. I meet hundreds of vets that are, awesome guys. You know, and I start feeling sorry for myself. They talk about perspective. You know, these guys, wow, sacrificed some of them their whole life. And I got a little ankle problem. So, you know, I always kept that perspective of being 8 and having fun. And every time that pressure in a World Series or something, I go, man, it's just like being 8. I'm, just so happy to be here, lucky to be here. Yeah.
We're in this amazing building which honors the sport of rodeo. Baseball and rodeo have always had sort of a crossroads together between the athletes. When you were young, how did you get into rodeo? Did you ever participate when you were young, or did you want to? What has your experience been with rodeo?
Well, you know, I owned the stirrup ranch for 10 years, and it's down between Canyon City and Salida as the crow flies, and I'll get to that in a second. But my sister and I, we had these horse pens down on Monument Creek, just off of Beacon, between I-25 and Monument Creek. And they were the horse pens, and we went down there, and I walked around. I didn't know horses, and me and horses really don't get along. I mean, I'm scared to death of them. I mean, they're big, powerful animals, and I've dodged some serious accidents. One of which, when we were young, we were down to horse pens, Paula and I walked around the back of this horse, and this horse kicked me right here and sent me through a 2x6, not a 2x4, but a 2x6. I don't know how I survived that one. I've been on some wrecks on hunting trips and things like that. My uncle said when I owned the stirrup ranch for 10 years, he goes, "Oh, you're a rancher now, huh?" And he looks at me, and I got all the boots, and you know, I look like a rancher. And he goes, 36 years a cowboy, huh? And I go, yeah. He goes, never stepped in shit. That's right. So, 36 years a cowboy, now 72 years, and never stepped in shit, so, yeah.
So I like this question here, and I'm going to take it a little step further. This question is, what was your most memorable game and why? But I'm going to take it a little bit further. How often do you lay in bed at night, maybe you're reminiscing, maybe you're talking to friends about your career, and is there a specific moment, because you hear Hall of Famers especially, and their situational memory is remarkable. It's like, hey, it was this game, it was top of the 7th inning, I'm facing Ricky Henderson, it's a 3-2 count, it's unbelievable. If you could go back in time and drop yourself in one moment to relive, what would it be?
Wow, I don't know if I want to relive. I'm afraid they might turn out differently, so let's leave it at that. You know, the 78 playoff game with the Red Sox, Yankees, I dug us that deep hole. When I joined the Yankees, I put so much pressure on myself. I dug us that deep hole. They're already world champions. Mr. Steinbrenner signed me. Didn't work out a deal. I was with the Pirates the year before. Became a free agent. Ended up signing with the Yankees. Becoming a free agent. Ended up signing with the Yanks. Now they're world champions. 77. This is 78. Sparky Lyle, left-handed great reliever, one of my dear friends, had won the Cy Young Award that in 77, the year they won it. And now I'm coming over, and I don't know, probably everybody's wondering why the hell they need Goose, right? Well, I had pictured us being the best righty-lefty ever. It didn't work out that way. They gave me his job on a silver platter, and I proceeded to really invent ways to lose games. Billy Barton and I didn't get along from day one. When I joined the Yankees, I was hanging my stuff up in my locker. He comes by my locker and introduces himself. Welcome to the Yankees, blah, blah, blah. Have a great season, let's go. Now fast forward, we're playing the Texas Rangers, first game of the exhibition season, and Martin is walking around different places. I'm scheduled to pitch the 7th inning, and we're playing the Texas Rangers in Lauderdale, in Fort Lauderdale at our stadium. And Billy's moseying around talking to different guys, and he's a pretty tough guy. And next thing I know, batting practice is about over, and the pitchers that I was standing there with, they did their running. I'll do my running after I pitch in the game. And So I'm the only one out there. Billy said, now Billy's standing in front of me, he said, hey, when we play Texas today, he says, I want you to hit that blankety blank sample in the blankety blank head. And which was their third baseman, Billy Sample. And I thought for a second Billy was kidding, and then I knew he wasn't kidding. I said, Billy, I throw 100. Now, the only conversation I've had is welcome to the Yankees right now. This is first game of exhibition season. He says, are you telling me you're not going to hit him? I said, hey, Billy Sample's never done anything to me. He says, I knew it. Called me a name, pointed at me like this. I thought we were going to fight right there. And he said, I knew it. He called me a name. So fast forward, Sample comes, I come in the game, Sample comes up. I don't hit him. And that's where Billy and he was testing my loyalty to him. And I would be damned if I'm going to fight his fights. I told him in the end of that thing, I said, I'm not going to fight your fights. Whatever you have between you and Sample is between you and Sample. And he thought I was a pussy or whatever. And so, that's how I got off on the bad foot with Billy. But then I proceeded to dig us a hole. We were 14 games out in July, late July, mid-July, and I had dug us that deep hole. I was inventing ways how to lose games. I mean, I was at my wit's end. I had put a lot of pressure on myself. Sparky Lyle being the Cy Young Award now, I'm coming in, and they gave me Sparky's job. They set Sparky on the shelf. Now it's me, and I am digging us a hole that's, we're not going to get out of. And so Billy gets fired, and we go on a roll. We end up playing the biggest game I've ever played in. It ended up that season. It was a Boston Red Sox. We ended up tied. They had a 14-game lead on us. We end up catching them, forcing a one-game playoff at Fenway Park. If there's one park you don't want to play one game, it is Fenway Park. You turn around and that wall's right there, like that one. And so no lead there is a safe lead. And this is the biggest game I ever played in. Now, we erased that 14-game deficit and catch the Red Sox, force this one-game playoff. I come in with one out in the 7th inning. Ron Guidry was the starter. I come in with 2 guys on, get out of that jam. It's 5-2 at that time. And I go back out for the 8th inning. I give up 2 quick runs. I am shaking. It's one of those times. I haven't stopped shaking. I got out of Guidry's deal without giving up his runs and keeping it 5-2. And then I give up 2 quick ones. Now it's the 9th inning, and I'm sitting there. It's 5-4. And 9th inning, bottom of the 9th inning. And I went to bed the night before thinking, I'm going to be facing Yaz for the final out. Yastrzemski, their greatest hitter, greatest clutch hitter, one of the greatest players to ever play the game. I went to bed thinking, I'm going to be facing Yaz for the final out tomorrow. That's how I went to bed the night before. Sure as hell, here it is. I go, well, this is what you went to bed last night. I got 2 guys on. Pinella, Jerry Remy hits a ball into right field. Their second baseman hits a ball into right field. Sun ball. Sun's right there. Afternoon, late afternoon, sun's just about down. And Remy hits the ball at Lou Pinella, our right fielder. Pinella comes in. He sees it for a second, but now he's waiting for it to land somewhere. And he backhands it, makes one of the greatest plays you'll ever see. He gets the save. I got to say. He gets the save for saving that ball game because we'd have a tie. That ball gets by him, we got a tie game. So now it's the 9th inning, bottom of the 9th inning, 2 outs, 2 guys on, and here comes Yaz. And I said to myself, I stepped off. Yaz is getting the standing ovation. for a couple minutes. He's the greatest player, one of the greatest players in Red Sox history. And I said, well, this is what you went to bed last night thinking. You're going to be facing Yaz for the final out. Here it is. I said, wow. I said, what's the worst thing that can happen? I'm bullshitting myself. I said, I'll be back in Colorado tomorrow, elk hunting. And really, and it was another perspective that I thought, you know, what the hell? And that was it. And it felt like the first time I'd taken a deep breath, and another time that, you know, the weight of the world was off of my shoulders. And I stepped onto the mound, and Yaz is just finishing his standing ovation, and he steps in, and the first pitch to him was down. I thought, that's the hardest pitch I've thrown all day. And it was down in the zone just under the knee on the plate. It was over the plate, but just under the knee. And he took it for a ball. The next pitch was the same pitch, only about right here, and he tailed in on it. And he popped it up to Nettles, our third baseman, and for the final out. And Thurman Munson was my catcher and one of my dear friends. You know, we lost him in a plane crash in '79 the next year, but I'm in the training room getting some ice on my shoulder, and he comes in and he goes, where the hell did you get that pitch? I said, what are you talking about? Those last two pitches, they had another foot on everything else you've thrown all goddamn day. He's like chewing me out. I said, well, I relaxed. He goes, what the hell took you so goddamn long? But that's another story about Thurman Munson. We're going to do a thing later on with Diane, and I hadn't told you, but Diane Munson and his whole family. I'm going back and doing a thing, playing with him. He would be in the Hall of Fame if he's the greatest catcher that I ever had the privilege to throw it to. He was awesome.
We got one more? One more, so we get a good one. Josh, would you like to take us home on a good question?
Yeah, I have one, yeah. Here you go. So this one is maybe a little more personable, possibly for all of us who maybe have children. I have a son, 7 months old. Really hope he likes baseball. So this may be a selfish question, but if you have kids or boring or in rodeo, I want to know. I can't help but notice, Goose. You're tall. Your hands are huge. Had to help you with different positions on holding the ball, throwing change-ups and whatnot. So my question is, do you think you can train and teach a kid to have major league stuff, or is it just God-given?
Well, I think that I wish I had $1. I think this will say it in a nutshell. I wish I had $1 for every kid that came through that bullpen in my 22 years in the big leagues that had electric stuff, but couldn't transition in what we call going between the lines. Same thing in any competition, you know. That's the, you know, that's where the rubber meets the road, you know. And the mental part of it becomes so big. You know, the kids that couldn't transition it, that lit it up. I mean, their stuff was second to none. I mean, fastballs, curveballs, change-ups, whatever, you know, sinkers, you know, live fastballs, everything. I saw it all. And could not, you know, a year later, they're out of baseball. It's kind of like me getting that perspective about, you know, having that disaster, how I handled that disaster, how I got through that, you know, with everything, how I learned how to get that perspective. It's like life. A lot of things we got to figure out. It ain't just talent. No. Talent's one of the things. I was lucky that I had tremendous talent, and I was a great student of the game, and I had great coaches. You know, I say today what's missing in the game is they don't want my knowledge. If it doesn't come out of the computer, it doesn't compute. You know, what they've done to baseball, don't let them do it to the rodeo and to this great sport like they have baseball. I don't even recognize baseball with what they have done. You know, it was great for 100 years, and then they get a hold of it and take the All-Star game, make everything political. Take the All-Star game out of the planet, all those people that were counting on the revenues of one of the biggest nights of the season of the whole year for baseball. I don't want to get this thing political, but you know what? This is America. Bull riding, baseball, apple pie, Chevrolet, and bald eagles, and John Wayne.
Ladies and gentlemen, Goose Gossage.